best Alabama team of Nick Saban's career, I believe. And it was interesting because the game was taking place in the Hard Rock Stadium there in Miami, which is the same field that Tua plays on. And I wonder how many other people watched this Alabama offense play, saw how explosive Devontae Smith was, how well the game plan was presented by Steve Sarkisian, and were Miami Dolphin fans and were thinking, man, this Alabama offense really didn't even miss a step with Tua gone, with Mac Jones stepping in to take over for him. Mac Jones looked like a first-round draft pick as well. But I think one of the challenges associated with giving a value, look, there's no doubt that Tua was a phenomenal and transcendent college football talent. And I am looking forward and hoping that he's going to be a really good NFL quarterback because like most of you out there, I root for everybody that has a team to end up with a good quarterback because NFL games in general are a lot more exciting if the quarterback is really good. Having said that, how much more difficult is it to assess the overall talent level of a quarterback when he has got maybe the greatest receiving core in the history of college football? I mean, just think about this for a minute, what Tua had last year. He had Devontae Smith, who just put up last night the greatest half of football that I have ever seen any receiver post in college football, okay? He had Jalen Waddle, who I think if you want to point to one thing last night that you didn't particularly like, I don't know why Jalen Waddle was on the field. I understand that they may have medically cleared him, and I understand that he may have wanted to prove to himself that he was ready to get back on the field, but he didn't look like he was ready to go. And I had this conversation with my 10-year-old before the game started, and he said, hey, Dad, do you think Jalen Waddle's going to play? And I said, if he was my son, the answer would be no. And he said, what do you mean, Dad? I said, well, he's got a lot more money to make in the NFL than he does right now playing in this college football national title game. And I understand that as a competitor, you want to be on the field. But I said, that's where you need somebody to sit you down and say, listen, as bad as you want to be on that field, the right business decision for you to make is not to be on the field necessarily at all until you're back to 100%. Now, I hope he's okay, and I hope he doesn't have any lasting impact, and I understand the drive and desire to come back from a broken ankle like he did and prove that he's back to being 100%, and I hope he is, and I hope he goes on and has a great NFL career, but I said the same thing to him, to my 10-year-old, that I would have said if Jalen Waddle was my son, which is, hey, man, you are an incredible talent. Continue to rehab. You've got the NFL Combine in February. Another few weeks of working to prove how recovered you are is going to make a world of difference in terms of projecting your future in the NFL. And by the way, by the time you get to NFL training camp in May, those kind of times, you're going to be going full speed. But he was still limping. And he may have been cleared, and I'm not a medical expert, and we'll ask Dr. Chow about this on Friday. I'm going to put a pin in it and remind myself to ask it. But the point here was Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle, both phenomenal wide receivers. Last year you had Henry Ruggs, and you also had Jerry Jeudy. How can you judge Tua accurately when you've got 4 first-round wide receivers that he was throwing to last year? And even how can you judge Mac Jones this year when they were getting Devontae Smith into matchups where nobody was near him? Sean Wade couldn't cover Devontae Smith. But a couple of times they got Devontae Smith matched up on linebackers. To me, if you're a coach and you're on the sideline and you see like on that one touchdown, I think that made it 35-17, that you had a matchup of Devontae Smith on a linebacker, you got to take a timeout on the sideline. Like, if you're the defensive coach or you are Ryan Day and you're sitting there on the sideline and you're like, in this formation, our linebacker is put on Devontae Smith, he can't run with him. That's a pitch and catch, easy touchdown. And do you remember that throw, Dub, where it was just like it didn't even seem fair? Like, you even saw the linebacker kind of like throw up his hands like, What am I supposed to do in this scenario? And so I think there's a intriguing question. I don't know that there's an easy answer to it, but I do think there's an intriguing question about how do you assess the quarterback when this Steve Sarkisian offense has been so good that it's virtually impossible for anybody to stop this Alabama offense. I mean, the stat's pretty crazy. Alabama averaged 48.4 points per game. Last night, they could have scored 70 if they had needed to. And congratulations to Texas, because I bet there are a bunch of Longhorn fans listening to us right now, and they're like, hey, that's about as good as an offense can look in college football. We need some more of that. I would say, yeah, Tom Herman's offenses look pretty good as well. But I don't think there's any doubt that Steve Sarkisian has built a level of offense there in Alabama, the likes of which we haven't seen very often in college football. And that's why I think you have to give credit to Nick Saban, because let's say Clemson, for instance, has had a phenomenally stable coaching staff. Brent Venables, Tony Elliott, they've been there a while now. Alabama, every year, they got a new defensive coordinator and they've got a new offensive coordinator. The analogy that I made, we just came back from Harry Potter World down at Universal. Nick Saban goes through coordinators like Hogwarts went through Defense Against the Dark Arts teachers.